It's a new year and a new podcast.
Yeah, to be fair, I feel weird replying to that, considering we did record an entire podcast last week.
Yeah, it feels like it's been forever since we did an episode because
It has been forever.
Because we had such an issue.
Do you know what 2 weeks means in internet time?
No.
It means our days of virality are over.
No, I thought you were going to give me like the actual like Unix like time stamp of
No.
how many seconds that is.
God, I'm not a fucking nerd. Yeah, it is a new year, and this is the first podcast of the new year.
Hopefully this reaches people's ears.
Yeah, so let me explain what happened last week for all of our listeners that do not know. I think I posted on Twitter. But basically, my wife asked me last week, she's like, do you think it would be fine if we ran the dryer? And I was like, yeah, probably. Turns out it wasn't. It wasn't all right.
And that was on during the entire time.
The entire time. It was like 40 minutes of our like 53-minute episode.
No salvation whatsoever.
No. And like at first you didn't really notice it. So like we were coasting pretty well off like the first half an hour. And then all of a sudden it just like switched cycles and it got so loud. And like I tried my hardest to like reduce the background noise, but it was still just this really irritating hum happening. And I was like, I can't release it as much as I wanted to.
It's a shame because it was the best episode we ever recorded. Like I couldn't believe how like pitch perfect everything was.
It was basically the Tenacious D song tribute.
Yeah.
That's going to be us talking about our lost episode.
Well, I guess the reference in tribute. We can make a tribute to last week's episode.
Yes. Pour one out for last week's episode.
Please. And if you didn't know that means you're not following us on Twitter and you're listening. So that means you should definitely go on Twitter and follow us.
Yeah, because if you're not following us on Twitter, then we're not friends.
Yeah.
And I hope that cuts deep. Because that's all I've got. That's my... That is the most threatening thing I can deliver.
Are you even on Twitter, fam?
Yeah. So, new year, 2020. What a start.
What a start. It's been a great start.
It has been. Has it? It hasn't.
No, it hasn't. It's been terrible. It's been terrible for everyone.
For literally everyone. No one has been enjoying 2020.
No. It's a cursed year.
It was incredibly snowy today. See, like the one advantage is, for the past couple weeks, it's been like over 0 degrees for like 2 weeks straight, which is just unheard of in Ontario, where we're from. And then, I guess, winter pulled a fast one on us.
Yeah, Satan's butthole came to us in Barrie.
Yeah. Is it full of snow? I thought it would be hot.
That's what you would think.
Oh. See,
he's got to keep cool somehow. He's in a land of fire and other things, I guess.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Look how much learning we do on this podcast.
And it would make sense, too, because... No, I'm not against it, buttholes.
Yeah, please don't. We can't start the year off like that. We need...
Last time I went on about buttholes and poo, Keith edited me out.
Yeah. Listen, my New Year's resolution is to raise the bar at least a little bit.
Cut Phil's shit out.
Maybe we will actually talk about web development. That would be a good start to
maybe.
raising the bar.
Maybe. I guess we are technically a web development podcast. We do sit in the technology section of Apple podcasts, so...
It's true.
We should honor it.
And, the intro to our podcast has Steve Ballmer yelling out,
oh, yeah,
web
he
developer.
does. Yeah. Because we're web developers, I think.
Yeah. I think. Well, I don't know. Are you? Because I haven't seen you for like 3 fucking weeks.
Oh, I know. I've been on vacation. It's been crazy. I feel like I've been on vacation forever. So yeah, I don't think I'm a developer anymore. I don't know how to do anything. It's been wild. The 2 past days. Well, actually, the first day I was back was kind of meh. I didn't really feel with it. I didn't really do much. I did 2 really small things, and then like by the afternoon, I just felt lost and confused.
You didn't have your Gatsby groove?
I didn't have my Gatsby groove because I wasn't working in Gatsby. That's why.
That's the problem.
But vacation was mostly crappy. It was just
I thought you were going to follow that up with some kind of like a positive adjective.
No, well, I mean, it was fine. It was just really busy. I'm a family man, and there's lots of families to go see during Christmas time. And so I booked off like a good chunk of time where it's basically out of work for like a good 2 weeks, I think, right?
Something like
I
that.
lose track of time while I'm on vacation as well, so I don't know how long it was. I never knew what day it was. So I had to do a lot of driving, and I hardly spent any time in my own house doing nothing, which sucked. And it was only for like the last like 2 or 3 days on vacation that I actually got to stay at home. And that was like the most magical time ever, because I got to stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning every single night playing a game called Bloodstained, because I really wanted to finish it, and I did.
Yeah.
Quote unquote finished it, so that was good.
Look at you go.
Yeah, and then like after vacation, the last day I had, like I was actually dreading coming back to work, because I was like, oh man, I have to get up early again and have a routine, and it's gonna suck.
And you've just destroyed your sleeping schedule by playing Bloodstained till 3 a.m. every night.
Yeah, exactly. I have to like go from going to sleep at 3 a.m. to waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, which sucks. But I don't know. I was really dreading it, and then when I got in the morning, and then I got to come back to the team, everyone's so nice that I just felt it was fine. Everything was great. I had a good time coming back.
I thought that would have been the perfect opportunity to just get out of web development. It would
could
give
have
you
been.
like 2 weeks to forget everything you've ever learned, and then you could come back and be like, oh, actually, I don't know any of this anymore. Maybe I'll go be happy in a different field.
What is this? I'm gonna go learn C.
Oh, no, I was just going to say something else completely.
Or just not even do development.
Yeah, maybe you could, I don't know. What would you do if you could, like, if you could just be anything and not have to worry about, like, schooling or, I guess, like, barrier to entry?
I'm like automatically good at it, or I still have to work at it. Am I automatically good at an entry level and can progress from there?
Well, I guess in this scenario, yes.
I want to be a pro skateboarder.
No, you didn't need any time to think. I think that's my favorite part about it.
It's because I've been so terrible. I've never been able to skateboard, and I've always tried to when I was a kid. So if I got like a free pass to like get to the entry part of it and work my way from there and do it as a job, then I would do that. That'd be dope. I'd be the coolest dad in the world next to Tony Hawk, who's
Yeah,
also
you know
a pro
what?
skater.
I'm totally behind you on that.
Yeah.
I would love to see
Me?
Philip Tejan become the next pro skater.
I would love to. I could star in the next Tony Hawk's pro skating game that won't ever come out.
Hey, you say that now, but like once a decade, they kind of just crawl out of the woodwork and try and recapture their old glory.
You know what they should do? They should just make a more sort of like open worldy sort of exploration skate game that isn't called Skate. It's called Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, and then make it good.
Yeah, and then he has a gun.
And he's a gun. He shoots people. And there's aliens and demons that come from outer space. But what did you do? What have you been up to?
You know what? Not a whole lot. I was working over the holidays.
Yeah, fucking chump.
Yeah. Basically. That's what they call me.
Keith Chump. Keith?
Mr. Chump.
Mr. Chump.
Chumpster. Chunky Chumpy. I don't know. Something. You know what? Fill in the blank. You can call me whatever you want.
Oh, I'll fill it in.
I was working over the holidays, so I really only had just like the actual holidays off. But I did work from home quite a bit, which was nice because the train is so expensive. So it's really nice looking at my bank account and being like, oh, look at all of that money that didn't go into the train.
Yeah, that's what I was also dreading coming back to, was buying train tickets again.
It's rough.
It is. It sucks. It's expensive.
See, the way that the train works is like the farther away the stop, the more you have to pay. But we are so inconveniently far that I think we should get a discount for having to live that far.
Yeah, like we have to sit on that long-ass train.
Yeah, we suffer. No one knows suffering like we do.
No one.
Not a single person.
We have real problems.
These are real problems, not like your fake problems. This is 2020 shit. So anyways, yeah, it was nice not having to pay for the train and doing 3 hours of commuting a day. I don't know if we've ever talked like how long our commute is, but it's about three hours a day.
Yeah, I don't think
a little over 3 hours actually.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever specified the actual figures. I think we might have mentioned our commute before, but yeah, it's around over 3 hours.
Yeah, 3 hours and 20 minutes.
Without delays.
Without delays. And let me tell you, this fucking train just loves to get delayed.
See, delays delays bug me more when they happen in the morning and it's only like a couple of minutes, because it's just enough time to fuck up the schedule and I don't get reimbursed for it. Because if it's over 15 minutes, I can get a free train ride. So I'm like,
Not always.
I'll
It depends on what is
Yeah.
causing the train delay.
well, that's a whole different story. But yeah, that fucking sucks.
Like one time there was a transport truck that was just parked on the train tracks. I'm not sure why, but because they said it was out of their control, we didn't get reimbursed.
Yeah. It's
Also,
super
if someone
shitty.
jumps in front of the train, not reimbursed.
Yeah, they have some. I don't know what their lines are at the station. I wonder if they don't even have a policy, if they just have someone who just like sits at a desk and goes like, "Nah, don't pay him a fucking penny."
Yeah, so other than that, it was pretty quiet holidays. My wife and I just really had to see her family on like Christmas Day, and other than that, like things were still really busy. Like we were hosting a lot, and
And you guys did host a lot of stuff. I didn't notice that.
yeah, and it sucks because it sounds good on paper. Like
Does
leading
it?
up to it,
Does
well,
it?
sort of. It's like, yeah, we're gonna see our friends,
Ugh.
and then like
Ugh.
the day of, I just like, oh God, why are we inviting people over?
Yeah, I don't know about you, but that sounds terrible to begin with. Inviting your friends over.
Listen, every now and then, like part of me, there's like this little creature living inside of me that it wants to be social, but it's like stuck in this like introverted husk that is me, and it's every now and then it like creeps out, and it's just like, oh, let's have friends. Let's.
Ooh, I want a friend.
I want a friend, please, please. Oh, I hope people like me.
I need validation, please.
And every now and then it's like, oh, let's party. And then like my cold husk just forces it back into its little fucking void.
Yeah, I think I can relate to that a lot. I think if I hide myself in a corner for too long, I go a little crazy and need a friend. But I for the most part really like my own space.
Yeah. So luckily things have quieted down now. A little more time to myself. That's about it.
That's
About
good.
it. Yeah, I didn't do much at all.
God, we're so eventful.
Yeah, I know.
Don't you guys wish you were just us?
You know what we weren't doing over the past 2 weeks? Podcasting.
We weren't. We specifically weren't. And we tried eventually. And then
Yeah.
that
See, the problem with
that
the first...
failed.
Yeah, so 2 weeks ago, Phil was just fucked off somewhere.
Yeah,
Somewhere north.
Because when I went on vacation, I was also not anywhere near Keith anymore. I was far enough away that it was unpodcastable.
I thought about doing something, but I was like, you know what? I don't have an accent. And I think that's the only thing that's selling this podcast. It's certainly not our talks on web development.
No, it's certainly not. We don't have anything interesting to say, so
Yeah.
I don't know why anyone would listen to us.
Please don't take that as an excuse to not listen to us.
Please do the opposite. Please give me pity listens.
Please tell 3 of your friends and have them tell 3 of their friends.
Can you be my friend?
Bringing back the pyramid scheme in 2020.
Start now.
Yeah. Do you have anything else? Anything else?
No, not really. It's been really uneventful.
You'd think that in the 2 weeks between podcasts, we would have had like lots of stuff to talk about.
The problem is, like, there probably is things that happen, but I don't remember half of that shit. I mean, like, when we do our little behind the curtain here, when we do like any kind of like planning of like what we're going to talk about coming up to an episode, like it takes a lot of brain power for me to sit there and think of the things that happened in that week. So
That's true. You should just memento it and just tattoo everything that happens on your body,
I could do that.
and then you would never forget.
I could do that. I'm like,
And then you'd have some sick tattoos. They would all just be random sentences.
I would like to do what like Maui does from Moana, but instead of it being like accomplishments or great things, it's just like embarrassing things tattooed all over my body. I was trying to think of a segue into the topic, but I couldn't. I had one earlier. I had it, but then it went away.
You know what the most upsetting part about losing last week's episode was? It was the greatest segue we've ever... Like, this is just going back to the whole tribute thing.
I think
it
it
was
was-
actually just a really good episode.
I think it was the only like natural segue we ever had.
Yeah. And it's like one of those things where like something happens and you try and tell your friends, but no one believes you.
It's the cursed episode.
It's the cursed episode. It was really... It just set the tone for 2020.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, we have how many episodes do we have that's failed now? 6?
Yeah, it's gotta be 5 or 6, I think.
There we go. One day we'll just release them to some lucky people for a prize or a higher tier of something.
I don't think they would be lucky people.
I mean, people don't want to hear a washing machine
Yeah,
and a microphone.
I feel as though that's like not a good prize.
We gotta have some masochists who listen to this.
I mean, I guess, you know, it's like people that are really into bands and they just want like those really rare B-sides, or like someone recorded like a underground show on their cell phone, and it's just you can't understand anything that's happening because it's just a wall of noise because they're just recording it on like their shitty like 2005 cell phone microphone.
I mean, even like in like, I don't know, decent microphones on like a phone, like people still do that now at concerts, and it just sounds terrible.
So like put away the cell phone at a concert. Just enjoy your time.
Put your phone away.
We're not on this world for very long.
Youth today, huh? Always on their fucking
Or it's like
phones.
you just saved
Me?
this. You've like curated and saved this shitty playlist since you were like a child, and you've just refused to let it go.
It's because it's a really great collection of music.
You have a remix of Britney Spears' "Toxic" with, what was it, Linkin Park?
It's Numb
By Linkin Park.
Yeah, it's a really good remix, but it's a really bad bit rate, so it sounds terrible.
You were just maybe, yeah. You know what? Maybe there is an audience for our failed podcast.
There you go.
Because
people love bad things. I mean, when we become really big and popular, it'll become our rarest recordings that people will spend millions on. Guarantee.
they'll spend millions on it.
Yeah.
For an MP3 file.
Yeah. That's how it works.
It's not like a unique, one of a kind piece of art. It's reproducible. Can be exported to millions of people.
That's what you say now.
The trick is we should be recording all of our podcasts on vinyl.
We should. I was thinking about that when you started mentioning about it being on an MP3. It's like, well, what if we did it on like a vinyl? And then we had to make treasure maps for people to go find these vinyls.
Now we're bringing this. Now that you're just complicating things, I'd rather just sell the vinyls for money. Let's take out the middleman of the treasure map.
Okay. And money. Sell it. Monetize.
Yes, unless we sell them a treasure map to a location that doesn't actually have any treasure.
And they have to buy the treasure map.
Yes.
There you go.
And then
we wouldn't need to record podcasts anymore because we would just sell them treasure maps.
Yep, this is a stupid conversation.
Well, speaking of wasting time,
yeah,
essentially.
Just, you know what? You just need to drop the segue bit.
There we go.
Wasting time potentially?
Yeah.
What is that?
Well, I don't know. This is a topic. I called it something. I called it working 80-hour weeks.
Well, I'll come up with a better name for when I upload the podcast.
Okay.
I mean, not right now.
Oh no, yeah. You can have your own catchy name. But there's been a lot of hubbub recently, right? Right?
I mean, if you go by what Twitter has to say.
Yeah, Twitter hubbub.
The Twitter hubbub. Because a lot of hubbub happens on Twitter. See, Twitter is great because nowhere else can you have access to all sorts of influential people in the same news feed that is just full of pure, unadulterated trash and just shit posting and terrible opinions and people arguing.
There's a lot of arguing on Twitter.
It's true. It's like an aggregation of just like every comment section, but now all centralized into one area.
And everyone has a limited character set.
Yes.
Bad threading.
And just forced down your fucking throat. But that being said, it's like, it's the only social network that I keep coming back to.
Yeah, me too.
Because I've had like 4 Twitter accounts over the years. Which kind of disappoints me because like my first one was made back before anyone had even reached 1 million Twitter followers. Do you know who the first person to do it was?
Who?
No, I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, just throw a guess out.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Fuck off. This podcast is done. Never should have started this up again. No, that is not the right answer. It's a real person.
It's a real person. That's
a real person. And they were in a show. They're an actor. And then they got into tech entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I don't know.
They were the host of MTV's Punk'd.
Ashton Kutcher?
Yes,
Really?
he was the first person to reach 1 million followers on Twitter.
Look at him go. I'm sure you did. I'm surprised you didn't mention him as one of the stars of, what's that show called? It's not called The Ranch. What is it called? He's in like a cowboy show now.
Yeah. That's The Ranch.
Is it The Ranch? Yeah.
It is. No, I did not use that.
Shame.
For good reason. That being said, yes, I was there pre-Ashton 1 million, and I feel as if I just kept that account, I would have had like at least triple the followers that I do right now.
You could have been at least the next Ashton Kutcher on Twitter,
Yes,
actually.
that's. I was bound for stardom, and I gave up my dreams. Brings me back, though. I think I mentioned my Twitter fight with Mark McGrath in the last episode.
I think you did. Oh, it might have been the last one. It was definitely in one of them.
Yeah, so that's my claim to fame, is making a nemesis out of the lead singer of Sugar Ray.
I mean, like Keith said, Twitter's full of arguing.
It's true, and I am part of the problem, and will continue to be part of the problem. I try and be a little more positive now.
Try to.
I try to just keep my content fun and entertaining, and because I don't have the patience to argue anymore.
Yeah, I mostly just lurk at arguments on Twitter. I don't take part. I just observe.
Yeah, and that's basically how this episode came to be. Was us just lurking from the sidelines and seeing this whole
debacle.
And I believe it all started when one person, I think they mentioned something about how they had been working, 60 to 80 hours a week, and they think everyone should because it's the only way to get ahead. I mean, maybe not those words exactly, but basically that was what the message was. And that just set off a whole chain of just shit. Just everyone, it was really divisive. I think more people were on the side of that's fucking nuts than people that were like, yeah, that.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
You know what? There's arguments to be made for both sides, because that's me now. That's me looking at both sides.
Wow, so progressive of you.
I know. They call me Mr. Progressive.
Mr. Pro.
Mr. Progressive Chump. And that being said, I think we have both experienced those sort of periods of long hours.
Yeah, and I have mixed feelings about it. The needle isn't on one side crazy, Matt, but it probably does lean towards more than one side.
The needle's in my arm.
The needle's
I'm juicing up. Juicing up to get ahead.
You said it. Juice up to get ahead.
Yeah, because why, it's like you could spend 80 hours a week in the gym, or you could just juice up. It's the same with development.
Yeah.
You could spend 80 hours developing, or...
I think so.
I don't know. I don't know what would juicing up for development be?
Brown nosing maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I
guess.
Yeah. There's no drug there's no drug that I know of that I can take that makes me smarter at programming. If someone knows, you can let me know in the comment.
Yeah. So we've both experienced sort of. I guess our experiences are a bit different, but the same, but different. That's what they say in Thailand.
Is that what they say?
That's
same,
yes.
different.
Same, but different.
Oh,
I saw it on a T-shirt.
Wow, you're so well cultured.
I know. I'm a world traveler. I'm a wanderlust. That's my Instagram bio.
Do you want to? What was your situation? Do you want to go first?
Yeah. So I'll talk a bit about my experience with working crazy amounts of hours. And I might have mentioned it in the podcast before, but I accidentally had 2 jobs one time, and I kept it because obviously it was lucrative. Again, I don't remember what ended up in deleted podcast episodes, so I'll just tell the story again.
Yeah, I may as well go for it.
Yeah, so basically what happened was I was working one job, and it was a full-time remote contract position. Basically developing an app from the ground up for a client. It was a small team. I think there was about 4 of us, and we had done about, I'd say maybe 4 to 5 months of work, and it was coming along, but for whatever reason, the client had some... I don't know, just questions about the future of the project, and basically the project went on a quick hiatus for them to sort some stuff out, basically revisit some of the ideas for the application, and I'm not really sure what was happening because I was just at the bottom of a pipeline where work got sent down to me and I shipped it back up, so I didn't really hear a whole lot about stuff that was happening at the business level. But I was like, all right, it was only supposed to be a short break. I'm like, whatever, I'll just take it as a mini vacation. And then about 3 weeks later, I was like, because I was under the assumption that this was only going to be on pause for a week or 2. And then 3 weeks later, I kind of got a little bit worried, and I reached out, and they're like, yeah, we're not sure when this is going to be starting up again. And I was like, well, I got bills to pay.
That's kind of shitty to not give you that kind of notice, though. Oh, forewarning.
Yeah.
Hey, be prepared. It might be this long.
But I was just a grunt. And I feel so that was also another problem that I had. And I don't know if this is true for most remote locations or most remote positions. And I assume it's not. But I feel as though it's very easy to be forgotten as a remote worker or like get glossed over, because really like tried to maintain just a pretty strong level of communication while I was on that project. But still, like everyone else, because it wasn't like a purely remote office. Like there was a lot of people in the office and then just kind of some scattered remote workers, and we were kind of siloed into our own teams. So like anything that was happening at the company generally didn't make it to me unless it was like a forwarded email or as part of a chain. And I get it. I'm sure most of the people didn't know of my existence besides like my one contact at the office.
Yeah, and I mean, like, this conversation that happens in an office space that won't always be copied and pasted or transcribed to a message or an email.
They're probably talking shit about me.
Yeah, you fucking suck.
This guy sucks.
We should just tell him that we're going to have a break and then just leave him hanging for a couple of weeks.
So after like a few weeks, I was like, well, I have to eat and stuff, pay rent. I was just out of school. I was working there while I was in school, and then I graduated. So my student loan payment started up, and I was like, well, fucking gotta deal with those. So I started looking for other work because I wasn't sure if this project was ever going to start up again. I ended up I started working with Phil, actually.
This is the second time we started working together.
Yeah, so the second time we worked together, because there was a few, like I wanted to go south. I wanted to be in the city, but I was also in the position where I was like, I need a fucking job immediately.
Yeah, I think you messaged me like, hey, I need...
So like I had like a couple... I had like a couple of interviews I had done and like some people I was talking with, but I was like, I can't afford to wait this out. So I got in. It was a very fast process to get in where Phil was. I think that was just because they were so desperate for developers.
Yeah, we had no one at the time other than me and this one other person, and they were looking to get more people in. So when I was like, well, actually, no, I didn't even like refer within the company, because I was just like, hey, you should just apply, because I didn't know whether I was still like not like completely new, but I was new enough that I didn't really know the whole process.
Yeah.
So I just stayed quiet.
And they were hella thirsty.
They were hella thirsty. And I knew that from inside information.
Yeah, I was in bed that night, and they just like texted me like, you up?
You up?
You up? So I started working there, and then like literally a week after I started working there, I got a message from my coworker, and they're like, oh, project's back up. We have a meeting today. And I was like, oh, well, funny story.
I met this person on this app.
With that being said, I ended up negotiating with them if I could drop down to part-time hours and still be a part of the project. One, because like I had been working on that project from like its inception, so it was kind of near and dear to my heart. It was like my first major project, so I was like, you know what, I kind of want to see it through. And two, because the other job really didn't pay that well, and like I was pretty fucking poor, so I was like, you know what, I could use that supplemented income, because I hadn't yet discovered the secrets of passive income.
Not yet.
No, and I still haven't.
Yeah, still not. Yeah.
When is this podcast gonna pay us?
I don't know. I'm waiting for someone to come to my door and bring me.
Yes, here's your your podcast royalties.
I'm waiting for the check, and Mr. Spotify has not come by my house yet.
Yeah,
so
look at that. In the last month, you had 60 streams.
It's like, wow, how much do I get?
They just cut a penny in half and give it to you.
Shave it down a little bit.
And you're like, we don't even use pennies anyways. You didn't have to cut that in half. But basically, I ended up with 2 jobs at that point. And when I had originally negotiated going back on that project as a part-time contractor, they asked like how many hours I could do. And I was like, you know what, 10 hours a week? And they're like, okay, that was that. Except 10 hours was never 10 hours. Sometimes it was no hours. But more rarely, it was 20 to 30 hours.
Yeah, I remember you just slowly withering away during that time.
Sorry, I should say not more rarely, more commonly. It
Yeah.
was 20 to 30 hours. And at a couple of points, it was 40 hours. Actually, there was like a good month and a half stretch that it was basically 80-hour weeks between my 2 jobs. At first, I was like, you know what, this is great. This is so much money. And like it was wintertime, so like there was nothing really else to do anyways. We'd usually get up around, I guess, like 6:30-ish.
I forget. It's so long ago.
Yeah, it was long.
So
I know
long
we were
ago.
we were going to the gym in the morning, but we'd get to work for. It was 8:30 that they started, right?
Yeah, we had to be in for 8:30 back then.
Yeah. So I would get to work, at 8:30, We'd leave at 5, get home around
6 o'clock.
6-ish.
6 o'clock was the time, yeah.
And then I would just like quickly scarf down dinner, and then I'd work from like usually like 7 to 1.
And do it all again.
Yeah, about 7 to 1. And then on the weekends, I would usually work like 10 hours a day. So really, I guess it really depends on the person. Because for me, you know, I like working, and it was manageable for me, and I was enjoying the money I was making. But I also learned that I have limits. I had to learn it the hard way because, again, like after my big like month and a half stint of like 80-hour weeks, you know, going to bed at 1 in the morning and then getting up for like 6:30, and you know, sometimes it was even later than that. But like I was coasting off like generally like 4 to 5 hours of sleep a night, and that just sort of kept compounding until I was just at this point of peak exhaustion where like I don't even know if I was a functioning human being anymore, and I was a fucking tyrant at home, and I was just a lousy, miserable person.
Yeah, and you could see that at work. Like I could see you like screaming internally at the office. There were some days where you were just so quiet, and it's like
Just internalizing just fury.
I knew better than to ask anything about how you were doing or whatever. I was just like,
Because you knew that I was one step closer to the edge, and I'm about to break.
And it was everything I tried to say to you. but yeah, you could tell.
For me, it wasn't worth it because, like, at the time, the money was nice. I probably just spent it on dumb shit. Like, obviously, I became a much stronger developer, but, like, that would have come with time anyways. It did help me land jobs and move up in my career. So it was beneficial to have. Although I did have to answer during every, like, screening interview. They were like, it says you worked these places at the same time. And I was like, yeah, man, I had 2 jobs. Want to fight about it? Yeah, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it because on one hand, it did help my career out a lot and kind of fast-tracked me into moving into a senior position. But on the other hand, it fucking sucked. I had no free time. I had no time for my hobbies. I had no time to podcast. I didn't have a podcast, but maybe this would have started back then if I had a little more time.
Maybe.
You never know. Like, I was just a shitty person, and, like, my wife, we weren't married at the time, but, like, she was just like, yeah, you were just the fucking worst to be around. So, I don't know. Like, maybe you don't have the personality trait that I have. That just makes me just a miserable, shitty person when I'm exhausted, but that's the position that I was in.
I think it's safe to say that most people get pretty shitty when they're exhausted.
I wish that I just had the sort of never-ending drive that, like, a super ambitious person has. I don't know where they get the energy, but hopefully it's like Facebook, where everything looks fun and happy and just beautiful on the exterior, but secretly on the other side of the screen, everyone's just as miserable as I am.
You know what it really is? It's youth. They have youth.
Don't remind me. Yeah, fuck them.
Yeah, fuck them.
Youth is wasted on the young. That's what they say.
Yeah, it's okay. They'll lose it soon.
I don't know, man. Or maybe it's just cocaine. You know, maybe they just do a lot of blow and they never come down. There's always riding a high.
Is that the steroid equivalent then?
Yeah, that's it.
Cocaine.
It's cocaine.
Okay. If you want to be a really good developer, then you've got to take a lot of cocaine.
It's true. You know what? I'm always just really held back by sleep. I feel as though if I could just discover the secret to not sleep, and I already sleep so little anyways, like at maximum, I get 6.5 hours.
Yeah. Oh, I wish you could just. I wish I wasn't dependent on sleep. If I just couldn't sleep and could just be productive through that entire time, that would be amazing.
It would be fantastic. And that's why we just need to start doing blow. But this podcast does not pay us enough to have an addiction yet.
No, not yet.
I just want to reach the point where
you can't fall down. You can't have a downfall if you don't
our work as the dev plebs funds our cocaine addictions. And that's how we'll know that we made it.
It's a good metric to have.
It is. That's it. That's the milestone.
Are you doing cocaine yet?
That's my 2020 resolution.
Ugh, amateur.
Have a blow addiction. How about your
Yeah, mine.
Yeah, how about your thing?
Are we talking
about?
I really wanted to watch you kind of finish that.
Your work thing.
Yeah, well, mine was, as you say, different, but same.
Same, but
Oh,
different.
same, but different. However they say it.
God, you're so not cultured.
I know. I'm such an uncultured swine.
You really should just travel the world, man. It'll really just open you up to new experiences.
So when I did it, it was at the company that you worked with me, the second one. And mine was after your saga. My saga happened after yours. But it was kind of a similar thing of like, I got the reins on like a certain project that I was put on. For one part of me, I felt like I had like this obligation, but I also wanted to see it through as something like, look what I can do. I can do it, boss. Don't worry. I can build it. And I ended up we didn't have that many people working on the project. We were so on demand that I wanted to see it done by the deadline. And
very ambitious of you.
Oh yeah, and this is where we probably diverge in where we get to the positives and negatives, is that I was so focused on climbing the ladder at this place. So I was trying to just do all the things I should be doing or I could be doing to try and please and try and move up that ladder. So when I was working all those extra hours, I didn't see any increase in my pay whatsoever or anything. I was literally just working to just please the company and get this work done on the deadline that was given, because it was a very short deadline.
But did they thank you?
I know what, that's a good question. I don't remember a specific thank you for much.
Certainly not in a monetary compensation.
No, I had some promised loo time that I didn't get, which kind of rubbed some salt in my wounds.
I was gonna say, like, that. I think that's the most insulting part.
Yeah.
Is that there was something promised. It wasn't a great compensation, and then they didn't even deliver on it.
No, and the work that I was doing was way above my pay grade. Like I had no business doing what I was doing.
Yeah, you make a good point. I think we do, if we haven't already talked about it, do need to talk about just how fucking insane that project you were on was.
It was. Do you want me to go over it now? I can do it. I can talk about it.
Will it be relevant to our topic?
I can go quickly. I'll give everyone the big summary of how shitty this project was.
Okay.
So it was a Magento 2 project that got brought into our company. The dev team was not a bunch of PHP developers. No one worked with it, and certainly not Magento 2, which is an e-commerce platform built in PHP, with a bunch of other PHP-based technologies. So this just kind of got thrown to us, and they were like, "Hey, can you learn this? You can just learn this as you go, right? Can we just rebuild one of our 20-year-old websites that's been going on for a long time and just rebuild it all in this new thing that no one knows?"
It was a pretty just fucked up train of thought that they're just like, no one knows this language, and this is a massive framework built entirely in that language, but like, Bill should be able to learn it, right?
Yeah, and the really big hole in this business decision was that one of the reasons why they wanted to rebuild this website was because the current framework or technologies it was sitting on was legacy. And the other thing that was happening because it was legacy is that everyone was transitioning to a different stack, which was using Node.js. So we wanted to make sure that we didn't have a split through tech stacks anymore. And then we went ahead and added a third tech stack because we didn't get rid of all the old stuff yet.
And how big was the dev team at this time?
Oh, what was it, like 5 people, maybe 6 people at most? I don't know. Let me try and count real quick. 1, 2,
How many
3,
just
4,
developers
5?
were there?
5 probably.
Developers?
Five full-time developers, but all separated on different projects.
They were maintaining, I think, like 4 or 5 different apps.
Yeah, and they were maintaining the existing one while we were rebuilding this new one. And it was maybe also just the most complicated and weird e-commerce business as well, because this was a very old application. So I don't think it was built when like e-commerce applications had like a standard of like terminologies and processes in case. So this application had its own rules and terminology that was very confusing to follow.
Yeah, I needed to ship with a glossary because it did have just the most bamboozling sets of just ways to explain or naming conventions
Yeah. And rather than like cleaning that up during the rebuild, they just stuck with it. So it was just terrible. And even like the admin of the CMS system that was built on top of that made it even more confusing to navigate, because you were then going through what the e-commerce platform had established its terminology with this own flavor of terminology. So it just, everything about it sucked.
But I found that was something the company did a lot, was like one person would throw out a word and everyone would latch onto it.
Yeah, that happened to me specifically. I would say something and then they would just, oh, God damn it. And then you try and course correct, and then they just wouldn't understand it. They would just stick with the original one.
Yeah, my favorite instance was on the project, because you were put on it and obviously not a PHP developer. You set it up to run Magento as a headless CMS, so you didn't have to use PHP for any of the styling.
Yeah,
because they also had a really fucked up templating system as well.
Their front end system was probably the worst part about that framework, and they even kept talking about how terrible it was.
So you brought up in like obviously a business meeting, just like trying to encourage them to move towards using it as a headless CMS. You brought up the term headless CMS, and for whatever reason, they just latched onto that and only referred to this application as headless.
They kept calling it headless or headless mode. They kept interchanging it in meetings, but it was mostly like, oh, we call this headless. And
which would have been incredibly confusing for like any stakeholders or any like new developers coming on to be like, what the fuck is headless?
I think every developer, every time it was mentioned in like the dev room, like I feel like I always got funny looks. And I was like, it's not me. I didn't mean for this to happen. I'm sorry.
But yeah, that's just what they ended up calling just the application itself. Not even just like the headless CMS part of it, just like it as an entire entity was just known as headless.
Yeah, it sucked. And the entire project, like much like you, I became a little bit of a husk and a tyrant when I was at home and in the office. And I think there was two reasons for this. One, it was just, again, a lack of sleep and too much work. I would work all day at the office, and I'd come home, I would eat food, I put the kids to bed, and then I would just jump right back into it. And there were some times where I'd come home and I'd be like, I have to go upstairs and finish something and then come down and then get back to work again. And I would usually work until like 2 a.m. or something.
And the thing is, like, I understand that sometimes on projects there's a bit of crunch time, but like this went on for what, like 4 or 5 months?
I think it was 4 or 5 or maybe even 6 months. I can't remember, because the deadline was ridiculous, and even though it kept moving, it was still never something that was way too short.
And you were the only developer.
I was the only developer. I didn't even know how to handle authentication when I was building it. I was winging most of that application.
And that's how over your head this project was.
It
was
insane.
no other resources allocated to this project to provide you any sort of help or guidance on how to possibly build out this system. They just let you to the fucking wolves.
I had to like establish like the architecture of the application, which I had like no right to do. I made a bunch of mistakes, but I think I made some decent things. But then most of my like good decisions were usually like good intentions, but then like poor execution, and then I would try and course correct later on, and then it was just a mess. As soon as I was done building that thing, I hated it, and I wanted to blow it up into smithereens. And I think maybe the worst part about spending all those extra hours working on this was that I had a newborn during this project. So it was a very busy time of the household while I was working on this, and I think I actually worked a little bit on this project while I was on vacation because of the newborn. But yeah, it's very unhealthy. I don't think it's a very healthy thing to do. Or at least what I did specifically wasn't very healthy. I should not
because
have
you had no sort of form of compensation for the work that you did.
Yeah, that too.
Besides a promise of Lou days that never came.
I got promised Lou time that never came, and then I think it was like only like, I think it was 6 months after it got shipped, which I was promised a compensation increase when it shipped, but then it got pushed back to 6 months after it shipped. And then it wasn't really that much. And then I got a pretentious title.
Yeah, I forgot that you did actually receive a small increase in pay.
It wasn't a big one. It was nothing to write home about. And again, I got a pretentious title that came along with it just after that.
That you didn't want.
I hated it so much. I was so confused by it.
Have you ever turned down a title before?
Yeah, have you guys ever wanted to turn on a title if someone tries to offer you a lead e-commerce developer title when you don't do that kind of work specifically. Yeah, I don't know. Everyone was very confused when I didn't like that title, but
Would you say there's any pros to it?
to what I did, the only pro is that like I got a lot of experience out of it.
You learned how to authenticate.
I learned how to build authentication, for better or for worse. Like I got the only
Your authentication was just a dialogue box that said, "Are you this user?
Are you definitely this? Please." Every time you went to
Yes
be paid,
or cancel.
you had to keep signing in. But like I got a lot of experience out of it. But like the only thing I'll say about my pro out of it is that I could have gotten that experience in a way more efficient and less stressful way that didn't suck me dry of all my free time and didn't turn me into a tyrant. I just didn't know any better, and I had this loyalty or this thing in my brain that said, well, I have to do good because I need to move up. I need to make more money. And the only way I knew how to make more money at the time
was work harder.
And climb up the ladder.
Yeah, it was a very short ladder. It was
wasn't,
like
yeah.
it was a step ladder. There was approximately 2 steps on that ladder.
And you didn't know what a step ladder was. It was hidden.
A broke, shitty developer. And then the next step up was lead e-commerce developer, which
still
also
broke.
came with no money.
Yeah.
God, what a time to be alive.
So what do you think about the end? How would you sum that up? Now we have both our shitty stories.
I would say it's very context dependent. I think if you were like creating a startup and you're all about that hashtag hustle, hashtag grind reel.
You just dropped it.
I think in that case, there might be some benefit to just working your genitals off. I'm not even confident that that's a great idea, because there has been lots of studies to show that like productivity completely dies off, and like the more you work, the less productive you become.
It's a lot of fucking work, and it gets stressful. Then I know that's what happened to me when I did that. Those extra hours when I was finally quote unquote done. I had no willpower to do anything for a good while. I just felt like I didn't want to see a single line of code anymore.
Exactly. And I think, so it really just comes down to the fact, like, if you're able to handle that and not burn out and just crank that dial up to 11 and just work at that level at all times without any sort of like diminishing returns whatsoever, then fucking all the power to you.
Yeah.
I hate you. I wish I was capable of always running at 100%, but I can't.
Yeah.
Because I'm 32. I can run like optimistically at 70% for maybe like 3 hours.
Yeah, I would lean closer to nay than yay. I think I would probably say, like, think about it. Before you jump into it, I know you might want to jump headfirst into it and not think about it, but please take a stop and think about it. And think about it as if it's something you're passionate about. Like, if it's a startup, I think maybe more inclination is towards that, because you might be seeing, that's your work that you're going to see yielding. You're going to have to see yield from that, or you want to see yield from that. It's going to be wholly dependent on your work going into it. But in my context, that wasn't the case, even though I felt like it was very tied to my performance. But yeah, ask yourself if it's worth it. Are you passionate about it? And if you really are going to go for it without any compensation, then don't go at 120. Just slow down a little bit. Just take some breaks. You don't need to work as hard as you need to get it done. It should, and if it negatively affects anything to do with like your work status or anything, then maybe at that point try and look elsewhere for other places. I don't know. Yeah.
Know your limits. Set boundaries. Again, going back to the context dependent thing is like, if it is something that you're like, if you're ambitious and you're working on this yourself and you just have that drive to be working on it constantly for 80 hours a week, then yeah, all the power to you. If you think that you need to work 80 hours a week to get ahead in your career, probably not the case. Depends on where you work. Like maybe you're working at like, I don't know, an agency that like constantly has tons of work coming in, and those crunch hours are really important to ship out because deadlines are nuts. So if you're in a workplace like that, then yeah, I guess expect to be working some overtime, and just be sure to, try and get compensated for it. Don't do work for nothing.
Yeah.
Don't be a sucker.
I think it's only human nature. If you're interested or passionate about something, or you want to get better at something, or you work your genitals off, like you said.
Yeah.
But like, that's where I would say, I don't think you need or you have to work the 80 hours a week to move up or get forward. I think you can be more efficient and still move up.
Yeah, because, well, I mean, like I said, like when I was working the 2 jobs at once in the 80 hours, like I think it did help me excel a lot faster in my career. But I don't think that's for everyone. I don't even think it was for me. I don't know. There are arguments to be made for either side. Personally, I think I also lean a little more towards nay. I mean, that's kind of the reason why I took the job that I have now, because it gives me a little more work-life balance, which I was sorely missing. It's made a huge quality of life improvement for me. I'm happier. I get more sleep. I still don't get enough sleep, but I get more sleep than I was getting. I work less hours. I have more time to myself. I can still learn in that free time.
That's where I'd maybe even like add onto the nay like sort of argument. Is it like if the less time you spend crunching on that project, you may end up getting compensated extra for is more time you can spend just growing yourself and Bloodstained. You could do more time playing Bloodstained.
Also, the name of my toilet after I ate a lot of hot sauce.
That's disgusting. That's disgusting. I'm ashamed.
Yeah.
That's sickening.
So really,
This podcast's over.
you don't need it to get ahead. You don't need it to be better. You do need it to climb up that ladder. One day, if you work hard enough, approximately 60 to 80 hours a week, you too can become a lead e-commerce developer.
You can make Headless.
Yep.
That's probably going to do it.
This is how we do it. Yeah, so 2020 podcast is coming back,
It's coming
whether
back.
you like it or not. Do we have any shout-outs?
No.
We don't.
No. Not one.
Not a single shout-out.
Thanks, guys. If you follow us on Twitter, though, I won't give you a shout-out, but you should follow us on Twitter.
Yeah.
You have to earn your shout-outs, please.
And what's our Twitter account again?
DevPlebs.
At DevPlebs?
At DevPlebs.
Like the at sign.
Like the at sign.
And then DevPlebs.
We have an email, too. If you want to email us, if you want to let us know, if you want to give us any feedback on the podcast, or if you want to share maybe some opinions you might have on working 80-hour weeks, whether you think it's crucial or not.
There was a lot of opinions out there.
There were a lot, so if you want to share them with us, you can either DM us at that Twitter we said, or you can email at deadbeats@devplebs.tech.
Just rolls off the tongue, right?
It really does. I have to. That .tech trips me up more than the deadbeats part.
Yeah. No, the .tech is really what throws me off too. It doesn't have a nice flow.
It's no .com.
But it was free,
Yeah.
so I took it.
Maybe if we can get money, then we'll have a .com.
And someone's going to buy it up before we ever get to it. And then they'll sell it to us for $20,000. And we'll be like, we don't have $20,000, but you can have our Podbean account.
That's what.
You can.
It's worth the same, I think.
Yeah. It's where we upload our podcasts. You can have it. Because I'm done with this.
This is the first and last episode of 2020.
Yeah, I'm a DevPlebs podcast purist. They were way better in 2019. Like their old material.
I think episode 4 was really good. I think episode 4 was the best one.
We're basically the Weezer of podcasting. You know?
Don't do that to me.
Everything was just a steep decline.
Ooh, I look just like Buddy Holly.
That was first album. Blue Album, released 1994. In case you're curious.
I wasn't.
Well, now you know. So, that'll be it for the podcast this week.
Yeah, thanks everyone for listening.
Yeah, it will get better.
Yeah.
It will get better.
Did we even say the name of it?
No, because I'm not about that anymore.
No.
I think at this point, we don't need to. No one new is going to be listening to this podcast. It's just the same 6 people.
That's true. They already know what the show
Yeah,
is.
so they already know what the podcast is called. We don't need to say the name.
Just look at the cover.
Yeah, it's right there on the album art.
You can see it.
You can. Anyways, thanks, Phil.
Yeah, thanks, Keith.
And see you next week.